This video is sponsored by Keeps. The 1990s marked a major shift in the gaming industry, with beloved video game franchises trying to break into the third dimension. Zelda with the Ocarina of Time, Sonic Adventure, Mario 64, Kirby 64, Metal Gear Solid, even Contra and Castlevania tried their hands at a 3D transition, if that's what you want to call it. But Metroid was mysteriously absent during this trend. This could be for better or for worse depending on who you ask, but the truth is that Nintendo simply couldn't come up with any concrete ideas for a 3D Metroid game, and it would remain that way until the turn of the century. It wasn't until the young, hip, and fresh Retro Studios pitched a whopping 5 titles to Nintendo, who passed on every single one of them. Well, passed on all but one. Metaforce, a third-person shooter that Shigeru Miyamoto took interest in, recommending the team shift the project into a first-person shooter so that they didn't run into the same issues that Rareware had with Jet Force Gemini. And after spending some time with the studio, they later suggested that the game could be better fit as a Metroid game, officially granting the team the Metroid license weeks before the announcement of a 3D Metroid game was teased at Nintendo's Space World 2000 demo. At the time, it was just Metroid 2003, the projected date of the game, or just simply Metroid. But nevertheless, fans were excited, with the game officially announced at E3 2001 as Metroid Prime, to very short-lived excitement. See, Nintendo, possibly on purpose, left out that Metroid Prime would be a first-person shooter, a genre that many felt was the wrong choice for the franchise. Publications speculated the game would bomb on release, and hope wasn't very high. In retrospect, these worries were hilariously misplaced, which is a bit of a surprise when you read about the game's production. 12-hour work days, 6 to 7 days a week. Nearly 80% of the game was created within the final 6 months of a nearly 2.5-year-long dev time. It's a miracle that this game came out, and to such high praise that it eventually received. Crunch can be devastating for a studio, and still is. The sad truth is that as long as good games keep getting crunched, then there's nothing we can really do about it. But that's an entirely different issue that I am not qualified to speak on. Despite all of this, audio designer Clark Wen at least thought that it was the right call to make, after literally working on the game until sunrise some days. At its core, the game was still approached in good faith to the series despite its first-person perspective. Hundreds of pieces of concept art were made for the game, many pieces simply made out of fun and passion for the series. One of these concept arts made for fun, I imagine, was Mother Brain. Seriously, what the hell is going on with this concept? It's badass, but this looks like something that a straight-edge kid would think that a drug trip looks like. Game director Mike Pacini emphasized that the game should be focused on exploration and puzzle solving first, often calling this game a first-person adventure rather than a first-person shooter, and that the only time the game should become difficult is during the game's boss fights, so that lesser skilled players shouldn't be afraid to explore to build up their arsenal. Kenji Yamamoto returned after composing Super Metroid 8 years ago midway through production for this game. They had a bit of difficulty settling on who they wanted to compose for the game and what they wanted it to sound like, that so much of the game was built to be played without music. This little tidbit is sometimes misconstrued to mean that they never planned to have music in the game. That's not the case. They just couldn't settle on how they wanted the game to sound for quite some time. And that sound direction eventually boiled down to simply sounding like a video game, in a time when Nintendo felt that a lot of soundtracks were beginning to sound more like a Hollywood movie. Ironically, it was the movie Apocalypse Now that helped them come up with the sound that they wanted for the game. Specifically, the sounds of helicopter blades sounded more synthesized. Today, though, Metroid Prime remains one of my favorite games in the Metroid series, just barely edged out by one of my favorite games of all time, Super Metroid. It was possibly one of the earliest first-person shooters that I remember putting time into as a kid, which I think unfortunately came with a side effect of me not understanding more traditional first-person shooters as I got older, but does explain why I'm a bit more forgiving towards the game's control scheme in its original release. I was split on what version of the game to play for this review. I could pull a G-Man Libs and review this game through the Prime Hack fan mod, giving the game complete traditional mouse and keyboard support, which I also think is a great way to try the game if you haven't before. But I've also played this game for well over half of my life, so that wouldn't be a great fit for the content that I like to make. Okay, so what about the Wii/Trilogy edition of the game, some of you might be asking? This one implements Metroid Prime 3's control scheme, but what a decent amount of people don't know about this port is that a lot of the lore was rewritten and retconned so that it would fit in with the stories of future games. And I don't want that to be how I cover this game for the first time. I want to tell you the story that this game originally shipped with, because I love this game a lot, and I feel like I'd be doing it a disservice service by jumping in at a later point. So because of that, I've decided to play the original GameCube release for this video. A full vanilla playthrough of the game from beginning to end on the platform that it was originally designed for, mostly. I am upscaling the game, but that doesn't really affect the gameplay at all. It just makes the game look more pretty than it already does. Seriously, this game has aged crazy well visually. There's still a bit of schmutz, most obviously the textures that can range from really low res and blurry to just straight up looking like Quake graphics. But for 2002, this looks fucking unreal. Well, okay, poor choice of words. This was also going to be an all collectibles and all scans run, but I fell victim to missing one of the one-time scan enemies in this game. It didn't feel like doing a whole separate playthrough just to get this one scan. That's what the fucking internet's for. Ooh, okay, that is a lot of names. I brought this thing with me to get signed by a bunch of YouTubers back at my first Too Many Games Expo. I was back in, I think, 2018. It's kind of crazy that about everyone I got to sign this thing have become people I can call my friends today, or at least acquaintances. Well, except for Vinny Vinesauce, and hey, that's okay. You know, I'd love to get to chat with the guy someday, but whatever, I'm not gonna force it. Oh, god damn it, this thing just won't leave me alone. I was wondering if I could return this signature. Cash or credit is fine. I also take cum coin. Alright, let's see. Who else is on here? Ant Dude! Alright, I shit you not. After I filmed that little bit there with John, Vinny was in that room just minutes after I left. Oh, I was so fucking close! And yes, I met Scott and Caddy properly for the first time. They were both incredibly nice to me, and I hope I can get them to slap me next year. This isn't a fetish thing, please. Just to get this out of the way, I won't be using the Fusion suit for this video, but I wanted to give it a quick mention because holy shit, it looks so good. Now that we have Metroid Dread so that we can see how the Fusion suit looks in an updated setting, it is a little weird seeing the fleshy parts of the suit look so smooth and flat, but it still looks great. In the GameCube release, you can only unlock this by beating Prime 1 and then using a Game Boy connector to connect it to Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance. Doing this with Fusion beaten will also unlock a fully playable copy of Metroid for the NES. You know, the adventure that takes place right before this game we're about to jump into. That's pretty cool. It was also planned to have a copy of Super Metroid because, you know, why wouldn't you want to include the best game in the franchise in this? But they pitched it to Nintendo when using a third-party emulator. That's a big no-no when it comes to Nintendo. The manual gives us a rundown of all the items we'll be collecting, many of which making their first appearance in canon, at least until Metroid Zero Mission later takes that title. It also shows us advanced mechanics like lock-on targeting and strafing. These are borderline required mechanics. I'm not sure why this is under advanced. It opens with a rundown of this new faction of Chozo, one that's pruned itself from the technology and machinery of the Chozo tribes we've met before. Well, okay, we don't meet a Chozo until way later down the timeline, you know what I mean. That's not to say that they didn't use technology. I think that the implication is that a lot of the Chozo tech we see throughout the game was made from the planet's native resources, rather than being shipped from other Chozo colonies. I'll be going over this Chozo lore when we get to the game because honestly, there's not a lot that's in-game that isn't in this manual, so I'll just bring it up then. The space pirates, though, get a good amount of exposition, clarifying a bit of what happened directly after Samus destroyed Turian back in the first game. They confirm that the Metroids that we saw in that game were plundered from SR-388. Don't know how they managed to pull that off without losing their entire army, but they used that underground laboratory in the hostile planet of Zebes to learn to control the Metroids, until the Chozo-infused human warrior of planet K-2L destroyed the space pirate leaders and higher-ups Kraid and Ridley, and later destroyed their mother brain. The manual doesn't mention the mother brain being formerly Chozo tech, so I don't think that's been retconned into the lore just yet. Just give it, what, one more game, I think? The pirates scavenged the remains that they could of Kraid, Ridley, and Mother Brain, with the pirates setting up shop in the next most hospitable planet in the solar system, Talon 4, retrofitting any Chozo camps they could find into their research bases, while scooping up any of their tech that they could find, discovering the Prime series' primary plot MacGuffin, Phazon. Well, actually, Phazon is what attracted them to Talon 4, but we don't learn that until way later in the game. A radioactive mutagen that they later tried to use to mutate the local wildlife for militaristic uses, aboard a low-orbit space station they call the Frigate Orpheon. Or is it the Orpheon Frigate, because the frigate is a type of ship, whatever. Samus eventually tracks down this space station thanks to an SOS signal they started broadcasting, and that's where our adventure begins. This is normally where I would cut to the opening of the game and begin the adventure, but okay, hold on, I need to gush for just a second. This theme song is incredible. Now, it's not just because it's an incredible take on the classic Metroid theme, but also for how it communicates its place in the Metroid timeline. Every time you hear the classic Metroid theme in a game, it's always delivered to you in a new way. From the hopeful and optimistic tone of Metroid 1, to the distraught and more somber tone of Super Metroid's, and the distorted and slightly off-key of Fusion's. This version is no different. It's not too somber, it's not too cheery, but it almost feels alive. Almost like Metroid Prime is more than a game, but a being, a creature. Well, okay, that part is technically true regardless, but later on, this sort of whistly synth sets in, most of the other noises quiet down, all except for the percussion, which hits like fucking thunder. And then the minute it's gone, that organic, fleshy sound just comes back and overtakes the composition. It's almost like nature quieting down, backing down the moment that something of consistent and intelligent design shows up, but then flourishes the minute it's gone. It's really hard for me to put this into words. I don't have a lot of music vocabulary under my belt, and I don't think that I can assign a single label to the tone of this track, but goddamn is it beautiful. And then you go to the main menu. Holy shit. I could definitely attach a tone to this one. This one is telling you to fucking brace yourself because you're about to enter a hell of an adventure. Once again taken by that organic sound, albeit much more subtle this time. And then in another verse of the track that you actually don't hear until the end of the game, it slaps you with this fucking part. I have goosebumps, holy shit. Space, the final frontier airlines, guaranteed to leave your legs in critical condition with our leg room. Yeah, you see that space station down there? That's gonna be your legs. Oh Jesus, are those rocks already burning up in the atmosphere? How low orbit is this space station? It's a miracle that this thing hasn't been dragged down and plummeted back into the planet's surface. Maybe all it needs is a little push from yours truly. Good lord, what an entrance. What kind of black magic did Retro Studios conjure up to make Samus look this fucking good? This is 2002! The way she somersaults off of her gunship, the on-edge body language capped off with the wonderful game start jingle that returns from the previous games. If you played this game in the early 2000s and worried about this game being a real Metroid game, this is probably where your fears started to disappear, though you still have to learn to play the game. And if you're used to more modern shooters with twin-stick controls, that's gonna be a little bit tricky because this isn't one. Games had already been using what we know today as traditional twin-stick movement, but it was still fairly young as a concept. This is a lot closer to, say, Doom for the PlayStation 1, or really any other Doom ports from that era, but I've been playing Doom PS1 recently, so it's just fresh in my mind. The left joystick is for movement. The Y-axis moves you up and down, and the X-axis turns you left and right, with the L trigger toggling strafing mode, letting you move in all four directions with Samus pointed in the same direction. And you fire by pressing the big red A button, not the triggers or shoulder buttons. And because you'll need to look around in a 3D space, you use the R trigger to enable free look, letting us aim in any direction while stationary. If you heard me say that out of context, you might think I was talking about the Mercury Steam games, but no, this is Metroid Prime on the GameCube! What I just described to you is exactly what gets in the way of me recommending this game to my friends, and is exactly what I imagine is running through George Costanza's mind when he played the game for himself. This picture is incredible. Telling people that Metroid Prime is one of my favorite games of all time, followed by saying, oh yeah, it has basically tank controls and you can't aim up and down while moving, that turns a lot of people off. If you are one of those people who came to this video trying to learn what the big deal is, first off, welcome to the channel, I'm glad to have you. Please consider leaving a comment about how big my forehead is. And second, I assure you that this game is built around these limitations in a way that feels surprisingly streamlined. Again, I'm speaking from a place of bias. I've grown up with this game, so of course I know my way around this control scheme like the back of my hand, but it'll come naturally to you eventually. You're introduced to scanning pretty early on, arguably one of Metroid Prime's most important mechanics. Instead of interacting with buttons and switches on the wall like any other first-person adventure, Samus interacts with them from a distance, which, you know, would actually be really good for a bounty hunter who's trying to preserve the environment that they're hunting in. But I mean, it's Samus. Samus. She might not have destroyed any planets yet at this point in canon, but that doesn't mean she's gonna leave the place spotless, though I guess usually the explosions are because of someone else's fault, not exactly Samus's. Whatever. Doors still open like any other Metroid game. Shoot that blue barrier covering the door, and eventually you'll see some more varieties later on in the game. I also fucking love this hexagon shape of the door. Hexagons are the natural shape of intelligent design, is what I used to think until you find out that Saturn has a natural hexagon on the planet's poles, unless that is intelligently designed. The scan visor is more than just a remote hacking device though, providing you intel on basically everything that the team had time to program flavor text for. The status of various machineries around the station, remotely carbon dating natural structures, giving you insight on puzzles you might need to solve, even information on, say, Samus's ship, and any life forms and wildlife you may encounter later on. Basically, if you see something and you want to know more about it, just check it with your scan visor. Scanning every creature, whether organic or robotic, as well as dedicated lore terminals for space pirates and Chozo lore later on, are all required for 100% scans. This is a separate criteria from collectibles, so you could still get 100% for items and not scans and vice versa. You don't need to scan literally everything for completion, but I still tried to just for the sake of collecting as much context and lore as possible. But if that's not for you, you don't have to scan everything in the game. If something is required to scan to move on, it likely has this red note over it instead of an orange one, so you know what to scan if you just want to get a move on. Quite a lot of Samus's arsenal carries over from her previous adventure as well. Morph Ball, bombs, Variasuit missiles, and even a couple that haven't appeared in canon yet, at least release order-wise, like the Charge Beam and Grapple Beam. Don't get too cozy with them. This is the game that started the trend of Samus losing all of her gear in the prologue, but these still act as an introduction to these mechanics as well as giving you a tease of what's to come. I imagine that starting the game without any of these would definitely give the average player the wrong first impression. Shortly in, the cause of the distress signal makes itself known. Interstellar parasites have broken from containment, test subjects of the space pirate experiments that have had free reign over the station for basically the last 6 hours. That's when the last of the space pirates' escape pods were deployed at least. Yeah, that's fine, just leave these massive containers of Phazon here. Surely nothing can go wrong. I mean, look at that massive mutated parasite in the middle of the floor. It's already dead now, it's perfectly safe. Samus's scan visor is also capable of performing a socially distanced autopsy to establish the cause of death for many of the beings that we're gonna find here up on the Orpheon. This space pirate broke his spine. Cool, thank God it's not me. Oh, we got a live one! Ah, good. Health is still purple. It'll stand out against the environment, I hope. Also, did you see that low opacity circle around the space pirate? If you see that, that's how you know that you can lock onto something with the L button. Toggling strafing mode while always having Samus faced in the direction of your target. Duh, no shit, that's what a lock-on system traditionally is in a video game, but it's important to point out. You're gonna be using this thing really for almost every combat encounter in the game. This is why I think that complaining about the movement in this game from a first impression isn't gonna take you very far. The Charge Beam has gotten quite the upgrade since near the end of the timeline, now almost acting as a tractor beam for health and missile pickups dropped from slain organisms and crates. Now, obviously, I would prefer to have these pickups gravitate towards me passively, but this is, you know, a step in the right direction at least. I'm guessing that they thought that it would be better to see what's gravitating towards you in a first-person space. It's not a big deal, honestly. We can also use the charge shot to destroy debris on the floor, which is only used, I don't know, like 5 times in the whole game. Oh my god, though, I love the way that the parts from her arm cannon flare out while charging. I cannot overstate how cool I think that this is. Do my eyes deceive me? Is that a small meter by meter opening? That's perfect for my ball! The morph ball in this game is kind of impressive. It doesn't control as tightly as it did in the 2D games. This one's a bit more physics influenced, like you'll bounce off geometry in a way that feels fairly realistic, but I love that the morph ball actually rolls while it, you know, rolls. This really shouldn't be a huge deal, but in the previous games, the morph ball just did this rolling loop animation even while stationary. So the morph ball moving around in a way that feels realistic is kind of cool. Oh, right, this path that we roll down takes us to the map station.
You've got mail.
Every time I come back after not playing this game for a long time, this jingle gives me chills. It never gets old for me, I love it. The map itself, though, had a pretty tricky transition into 3D, but I think that it gets the job done for the most part. In later areas, especially more vertically focused areas, it can get a bit disorienting trying to find out where you are in relation to the rest of the map. There's definitely room for improvement, but I'll cut it some slack. Alright, I'm gonna take a minute to take a short break real quick. This has been, without a doubt, my largest project yet, and I wouldn't be able to take the time for projects like these if it weren't for taking sponsorships. So let's take a minute to thank today's sponsor, Keeps. Alright, hear me out for a minute, okay? 2 out of 3 men experience hair loss by the time they're 35. That might be me, it could even be you, but that doesn't mean that you need to look in the mirror every morning dreading for that day to come. Keeps is here for you, offering generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved, clinically proven, research-backed hair loss treatments. Choose the treatment that best matches your follicle situation, and Keeps will provide discreet packaging for half of the price of your local pharmacy. And that's all without needing to travel to the doctor's office. Starting your subscription today is quick and simple, designed to ensure that you will never run out of the goods that you desire. Hair loss stops with Keeps. So start today by visiting keeps.com/thattravguy or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first purchase. That's keeps.com/thattravguy. Thank you so much for the sponsorship, guys, and thank you, the viewer, for your time. Now let's jump back into the depths of Talon 4. A lot of map rooms and save stations come with some readable lore on the walls. This one tells us about how ground zero of a Phazon crater on the planet below has become radioactively stable, 2 parasite queen specimens have become volatile, and that smaller parasites have infested the ventilation shafts, which they then tried to trap by closing the ventilation. Absolute galaxy brain play here, guys. I'll let you do the math. What do you get when you take away ventilation in a spaceship? The parasites seem to be the specimen of the week up here in Pirate Delight, reporting back specimens with a thicker hide and galvanized talons from a Phazon infusement. Even the eggs were affected, which are only mentioned because the boss fight coming up was planned to use eggs in its boss fight, but it was cut, and I guess that this lore tidbit was left in. I mean, it's good world building, I'm not exactly gonna complain, but with things like this at risk of breaking containment, it makes some surface level sense to have some kind of automated infantry. Oh, never mind, their turrets are weak as hell. No wonder they're being overtaken by these things. This frigate, by the way, was part of a whole fleet of these things over Zebes during the pirates' time down there. Zebes has fallen, as the pirate log says. All ground personnel are assumed dead from the hunter clad in metal. Holy shit, that is a badass name. And we're able to retreat with a whole batch of Metroids that are now on reduced feeding schedules to pad out their rations. Yeah, last thing you want is for Metroids to go hungry, am I right? Wait, can the Metroids even survive without food? Do they just get irritated when they're not fed, or do they actually die of starvation? Never mind. Oh, that's pretty cool. It's one of those hopper things from the 2D games. And that's the only time we see this in the whole game. Your curiosity is often rewarded when it comes to scanning literally everything in the environment, at least in pirate areas. I just happened to find this terminal here that when scanned disabled the turret system in the room. Yeah, you see that little green bastard up there? Yeah, he looks like he's pretty flaccid right now, huh? Maximum firepower recommended. Yeah, sure thing, boss. Look, okay, I know that the fast missile tech is technically an exploit and it's patched out in the sequel games, but it wasn't patched out in future ports of this game, so I'm just going to enjoy this while I have it. Also, it's fun. Certainly more fun than death by removal of organs. Yes, the classic Nintendo staple. Boy, oh boy, it sure is convenient for all this pirate tech to require a metal sphere as a key to activate. Little did they know Samus was their key all along. To their death. Now, okay, I know what you're probably wanting to ask right now. Are the save stations as cool as they were in Super Metroid? Yes, at least I think so. Also, they refill your health, so that's a pretty nice bonus. Hello, Mama, I'm home. You better not be sitting in the reactor again. There she is. This must be the specimen that survived. Looking pretty good, might I add. A Phazon-infused parasite queen, or at least infused by an unknown mutagen as Samus's logbook says, but we all know that it's Phazon by now, come on. This scan log, by the way, is the only one in the entire game with an exclamation mark, which is probably the most optimistic Samus's suit AI has ever been since Fusion, or until Fusion. Oh, it's got mouth lasers, that's wow. A cool little detail about this fight, the head is its weak point as we learned from the scan log. If you don't scan it, the lock-on targets the abdomen by default, but after scanning it, it now locks onto the head. My only problem with this is that this mechanic is really never used again. This would be a great incentive to use the scan visor more often. That's so cool. This is just such a missed opportunity for the rest of the game. This fight was also planned to have her lay eggs and drop parasites around the arena before getting dropped because that shit's too complicated for an opening boss fight. Look at how this motherfucker moved at one point. Holy shit, that's terrifying. So anyway, about that missile exploit. Oh, hey, come on, don't be like that.
Evacuate immediately.
Oh, you're really hitting that Super Metroid nostalgia. Better here than never, I guess, because we don't have an escape sequence at the end of the game. Oh, spoilers, shit, sorry, my bad. Oh, Jesus, did the parasite just explode, or was it something else? What are in those Phazon sticks? Holy shit. Oh, yeah, give me those bug guts. All right, this escape sequence has been suspiciously easy. Who's in charge of this godforsaken station? Wait, this is where they brought Ridley's corpse? God damn it, of all of the frigates that they could have been pairing the parasite experiments on, I had to go to this one. I could have been on the Mother Braid frigate or the Kraid frigate. God frigate, Scott sure got a size upgrade when we last saw him on zombies. I'm gonna blame that on the cybernetic augmentations this dude's been fitted with. Do we know if his brain is still in there? Like, does he remember me, or is he essentially a whole other organism at this point? Whatever. Meta Ridley is this thing's codename. The reanimated body of Ridley from Zebo stitched back together and fitted with ballistic weapons, plasma cells, and a metal exoskeleton. Yeah, enjoy running now, you pterodactyl fuck. We'll meet again in maybe 10 hours. Yeah, these pirates may be really fluent in tech, but they really aren't too bright. Why would you put Ridley, who, depending on the game, is often regarded as the leader of the space pirates, in the same frigate as the experimental nuclear mutant parasites? It's not even like this Ridley is infused with Phazon. That would actually make sense. Now's a better time than ever for grapple hook. That was okay. Oh no, Samus, look out for that very slow-moving explosion. God damn it. I mean, sure, that explosion looks like fucking nothing, but it did throw her all the way down that hallway. Surely that's enough to explain her losing 400 pounds of gear. That's just what happens when your station doesn't have proper airflow. One of the only regions in the whole franchise to not give Samus any new abilities is also the one that taketh away. Grapple beam malfunction, charge beam malfunction, yeah, okay, I get it. We're back to naked Samus again. No stronger than how she was in the beginning of the first Metroid, sans the shorter power beam. At least the basic power suit isn't puke yellow like in Super Metroid, and I've always had a soft spot for this weird backwards L on the chest. I have no idea what purpose the lack of symmetry here serves, but it looks really nice. That's more than I could say about these dinky-ass shoulder pads. I really miss my air conditioning balls. Hold on, I know that music. Oh, wait, right, this was one of the first games to use this exclusively as the theme for Ridley. How the hell is he flying, by the way? Is he swooping his wings just for show from his propulsion? The membrane from his wings are energy now, so maybe it's some kind of propulsion system. And I mean, if there's rocks already burning up in the atmosphere all the way up here, then he's certainly grabbing something, I would assume. Unfortunately, Samus loses Ridley on the way down, forcing her to make ground-based reconnaissance. I absolutely love this landing sequence. These harsh shots of Samus's gunship making its way to the planet in between tranquil shots of the surface below, almost mirroring this world and the Phazon plague that's about to hit it. The peaceful and tranquil life below, about to become the battlegrounds of a war that it didn't ask for. Welcome to Talon Overworld. Our stage has been set, our stakes have been raised, and our adventure finally begins proper. Our gunship behaves similar to how it did in Super Metroid, a save station, health restore, and ammo restore all in one. Also, whenever you use it to save, and only if you use it to save, Samus shakes her ass for some reason. Someone animated that. Arriving at Talon isn't quite as somber as arriving at Zebby's back in Super Metroid. The optimistic tone is oddly fitting for its place in canon. Beetles make our first enemies to us in this naked state, burrowing bastards with a melee attack, nigh harmless, which is understandable for an opening enemy. Joining this all-star cast are the exploding mushroom blast caps, sap sacks, which are nectar-rich plants that have evolved to fucking explode to preserve itself, so that only brave or incredibly stupid wildlife attempt to eat it. Gamers somehow returned from Zebes and are only vulnerable to concussive blasts, alongside their weaker Zoomer cousins. There's a really easy joke to be made here, but I think the name is enough to suffice. Yeah! For the most part, it's harmless wildlife that doesn't really pose an ounce of a threat to Samus. Talon Overworld acts as our hub between regions for the time being, with all but one available path to us so far funneling us towards one of two regions. One being a literal magma cave, so I'm not even gonna bother with that until we get the Varia suit back. So that just leaves the Chozo Ruins. I can only imagine what this place was once called because I doubt that the Chozo called them the Ruins. Oh, great. Sand.
I don't like sand.
Well, seismic activity is a pretty good lead when we're in a Chozo homeworld. Also, yes, I know I'm using the hint system. I really don't need it at this point, but I like to keep it on. Just, I don't know, there's some kind of primal part of my brain that just tells me to leave it be, which is a lot unlike how Samus feels about these ecosystems. I also think that a hint system like this is great for a closed world exploration based game like this. Just showing you a room off in the distance and telling you find a way to get here without telling you how gets the job done without spoiling too much of the experience. The only time this ever becomes an issue for me is when it starts repeating hints because you haven't gone to this point yet. At that point, yeah, I completely agree, just turn it off. Chozo lore is given to us through these, what is this, a sort of wavy engraving? I thought this was like a pool of water on the wall as a kid that dries up once you scan it. The lore does speak of a well or a fountain, so maybe that's where the connections got lost for me back then. It speaks of a well that gave these Chozo visions of a future, warning of a dark plague that would poison their spring water. This is not to be mistaken with the Great Poison that they later refer to in Chozo lore when talking about Phazon, which does make this a little bit confusing to read for the first time. I'll explain that more later on. Welcome to the Chozo Ruins, which is exactly what it sounds like, though this is one of the earliest interpretations of a Chozo Ruins in color. A missile door taunts us as soon as we set foot in the main ruins. Not entirely red like the previous games, but a red device placed over the door, keeping that blue shielding from being disturbed. As you would expect, this device can only be removed with explosive force. We'll be back to this in no time. First, we gotta climb these absolutely massive stairs. Holy shit, how big were these Chozo? You're making me think that they had to use morph ball technology just to fit through these doors. I hope you like swarms of smaller fodder enemies, because you're going to be seeing a lot of these throughout the game. Taking this role in the Chozo ruins are the scarabs, swarms of small, explosive arthropods that sacrifice themselves to protect the nest. And they're actually kind of a threat for the early game. Okay, that's not entirely true, they're really easy to take out. Just don't try to tank the damage. Look at how much energy these fuckers shaved off of me.
Damn, nature, you
These may be ruins, but the Big Bird's old security systems haven't all been petrified just yet. Organic Chozo security systems in the form of ions still remain for the time being. What a cruel little existence, assuming that they're conscious organisms, which maybe they aren't. And they're not perfect either. Despite being security, these things are sensitive to light, so much so that hitting them with the power beam is enough to make them wince. Now, I want to know what is sustaining these things. Do they have a whole network of roots and veins behind them that's absorbing nutrients from the walls? Actually, you know, I would rather not think about it. Wow, real-time reflections! RTX fucking on, my dude! Look at that! Actually, I'm pretty sure it's just another model on the inside of this thing. And if you've never seen this, I don't blame you. It's almost impossible to make out what this reflection is supposed to be when played at a native resolution. Warwasp hives litter the walls and ceilings of these ruins, infinitely respawning these guys until we could destroy their hives. These were literally the second enemies in the game to be programmed, which I guess would explain how polished their pathfinding is. It really feels like I'm being attacked by giant bees. If you're trying to make your way from one point of the room to the other while just ignoring the enemies inside, yeah, they can be a little bit of a pain, but just give them a couple taps with your power beam, they're not too bad. Plasmites act as those room-brightening fireflies from back in Super Metroid, dying when being touched or obviously being shot at, though the darkness that follows isn't nearly as punishing, especially since every single one of these guys happens to be near water in the game, and the reflection mat of the water is just a solid white color regardless of the room lighting, so it's a lot harder to lose where you are in the room. Though near the water, you're a lot more likely to come across tangleweeds, barely sentient organisms grabbing at small prey for food, and as a result, grabbing and tugging at Samus's feet. Just like a lot of you that I see out on Twitter, please stop showing up in my timeline, thank you. They just slow you down until you shoot at them to make them retract. As we descend deeper into the ruins, the little bit of water that hasn't dried up down here, or at least what once was water, becomes more and more corrosive. Old Chozo plumbing devices have higher readings of toxic compounds, all around a massive contraption, reportedly with life forms that sit idly inside, just below this missile expansion. Or I guess missile launcher, since we don't have missiles yet. So, come on, this is gonna be a trap. So wait, does this thing know that it's protecting these missiles, or... never mind. The Hive Mecha, or Chozo Totem as 3D modeler for the game James Dargy put it. A Chozo security device that weaponizes local predators for its protection, and the predators that it's chosen are a unique enemy to this fight, Ram War Wasps, or Blood Wasps in Japan, which is a much cooler name, might I add. Ram War Wasps is a goddamn tongue twister. This specific species has evolved a sort of hive mind intelligence, circling and attacking its prey as a single-minded being. This is a really good moment to teach the player about the radar at the top left of the screen. I spent so many years of my life not even knowing that I could use this thing, and I'm not alone there. Every time I stream this game over on my Twitch, which has been more than once, there's always at least one person in my chat that says that they had no idea you could even use this radar. It's almost hilarious how poorly communicated this is to the player. I consider this thing a boss even though it doesn't have a health bar. Take out the wave of war wasps and then attack the totem once it's left vulnerable. I'm not sure why it's exposing its weak point to us after we kill its babies. Maybe it's like a dog whistle, it's like attracting more war wasps to come fight for it. Thank you for the challenge, oh strange Chozo security system, and thank you for the missiles. Is it supposed to be glowing like that? Must be another side effect of getting the missile launcher before the morph ball. Fuck you, missile door, I've got explosives now. Oh, I love that little jingle. I never would have thought that Metroid needed its own Zelda-like puzzle-solved jingle, but here we are, and I like it. We're given an energy tank for our efforts, though we're gonna need to come back here with the morph ball to get a move on through the rest of this path, which is a trick that Metroid Prime is gonna be using a lot up until the end of the game, giving you a new tool for your kit, missiles in this case, providing you an obstacle to use it on, the missile door, and then impeding your path by asking you to come back with another upgrade, the morph ball tunnel. Seriously, once you notice this, it is almost impossible to not notice it, and it's quite distracting. And I'm not even saying that this is a bad design philosophy, it's just glaringly obvious once you start paying attention to it. And hey, we could snag a few goodies on the way too. A map station for the ruins, a missile expansion behind this wall, and as an added bonus, a way to render these war wasps nests sterile. Holy shit, that was hard to say. Oh wow, another half-pipe structure! Yo, I love Tony Hawk! That guy looks just like Tony Hawk! Something tells me we're gonna get a skateboard upgrade for our morph ball. Alright, where's the manager? I need to get that morph ball down from that top shelf and I'm too short to reach it. Ah, you must be the big one. Well, it was the big one. Ah, shit, I forgot to scan it. That's okay, there's gonna be more of these guys later on. How come the morph ball on this pedestal is a pinkish color? I know the Varia suit in the NES game was pink, though that's more likely a coincidence. Oh well, it's good to have this thing back. What's the deal, though, with the morph ball in this game? Where does Samus go? What is the energy inside of this thing? Is she just turned into a being of pure light in there?
Pure light.
I mean, the trail that it leaves behind when you're rolling is pretty cool, but, where am I?
I banish you to the ball dimension.
Oh, shrink bats! Oh, they're just like I remember them. Apparently, they've got an internal temperature of around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Why is the wildlife around here so explosive? Also, how are so many species from Zibs also on this planet? Who brought them here, or vice versa? Because I have a hard time believing that these two separate species of shriek bats evolved completely separate from each other. Oh my god, it's a tentacle with an eyeball on the tip. Okay, I know that octopi have like individual brains for their arms, or at least some kind of clump of neurons that lets it act individually, but a whole ass eyeball on the end of it is a little different. Man, imagine how cool it would be to have an eyeball on the back of your hand. Yeah, I bet it would love looking at this room all the fucking time, which we'll be back to in just a minute. I want to get the charge beam first, and also bombs. The path of corruption leads ever higher. Yeah, because that's where the afterlife is, and also where you will go if you are corrupt. This room sure looks important, but I think we're missing something. You know you're in for some shit when the door is literally locked with an unbreakable seal. We need bombs before we could do anything in this room, so I suppose that our only option for now is... Let me guess, another symbiotic security drone? Actually, kind of. This is closer to an autonomous waste disposal drone that just happens to have another unique breed of war wasps directly above it. These fuckers can fire their stingers over 20 meters. How they manage this without destroying their internal organs is a mystery to me. Imagine the Hive mecha, except waiting to shoot it on a timer rather than having to take out all of the bugs. Just play a bit of flamethrower jump rope and then shoot the big red fuck me light every time it shows up. Okay, yeah, this one is not symbiotic at all. Hello, bombs. I missed you very briefly. Oh, look at the little jump that Samus did in the cutscene. That's adorable. I admit that I prefer the more mechanical, solid bombs of the previous games over this weird, like, energy-based set of bombs, but the sound design at least accommodates for this aesthetic change. Honestly, for the longest time, I thought that this specific type of bombs were made by this breed of Chozo as some sort of portable battery or something, which explains why you could use this to power various equipment. Except that theory that I had doesn't add up because Samus had this exact type of bomb back in the Orpheon, so it's purely an art direction thing rather than lore. It's a shame though, I think that there's potential there. Oh shit, shriek bats! Oh shit, Vor! An energy malfunction at the furnace. That doesn't sound good. Could it have anything to do with that white door in the room? What is that, an ice beam door? Oh wait, yeah it is. The game just tells us the 3 beams we'll be collecting in our adventure in the key to the left. That's okay, it's not too big of a mystery. Almost every item we collect in this game is an item that's from a previous Metroid game. Very few of these are original power-ups. We're not even able to check out the furnace part of the furnace until we acquire some arachnid powers. But merely visiting this part of the room that doesn't let us access it gets rid of the hint pointing you in the right direction. So first-time players might completely forget to come back here once you have the appropriate ability. It's such a small issue that I think could have been mitigated pretty easy, but whatever, it's not that big of a deal. For now, we can only snag this energy tank again. Though we are pointed in the direction of the Sun Chamber, which sure looks like it's gonna be a boss fight arena from this view. I can only assume that whatever's been poisoning the water hole has been brewing down there. That which fouls the water seeks the sun. That is a badass way of saying that everything corrupted by the great poison below will eventually surface. Man, I love this kind of cryptic shit. Wait, hold on, do I hear something? Yeah, keep your ear open for this sound. It means that there's an item nearby. That wasn't even close. This is our 3D counterpart to the map, showing us a dot to show us that there's an item in the region. It's not perfect, but it gets the point across. The room for the charge beam builds on this scanning mechanic in a way that we're going to be seeing a lot in this game. You have to search the room to scan these 4 Chozo runes in order to activate a way out. I'm assuming that there's some kind of tech involved here. I know these Chozo were more religious and focused on the paranormal, but I mean, how else would Samus be able to interface with this? It's totally possible that the suit is just that versatile, but I feel like there's something more here. Holy shit, there were no safety precautions with that door. This shit could cut a dude in half. Now nothing will cut me in half. Now let's say we blast some eyeballs now, shall we? No shit, right, I can't go this way yet. Wait, they grow back? Alright, are you ready for round 2? Of rune scanning? One of these runes is under a bunch of red tangleweeds, which it won't let me scan yet for some reason. Now how will I know the very specific lore explanation for how they hurt me? Ah! Alright, I didn't even know that that was a rune. I was just trying to scan shit to get more lore. I wonder what that symbol means. Ah, I see. It's a giant blood flower. Oh shit, it's got the wood tower battle chip. I mean, I guess plant tower? Oh, that is more than just a blood flower. Flagra, the source of the toxin that's overtaken these ruins. A mutated super bug plant thing that, due to its massive mutated size, requires a fuckload of sunlight to photosynthesize and produce enough glucose to maintain itself. Its outer carapace is practically indestructible, but if we could cut off its supply of sunlight and take a shot at its roots... Yeah, burn, motherfucker. Alright, who's flipping those mirrors back up? I want to see the man behind the curtain! By the way, are you tired of this music yet? Yeah, me too. The NTSC edition of Metroid Prime for the GameCube, for whatever reason, the full theme is in there, but it just doesn't play. This was fixed in future releases of the game in other regions, but wouldn't be fixed in NTSC regions until the Wii release. And on the topic of that, back when I used to play this game as a kid, I would pretend and make believe that the spring ball was actually in this game whenever I made it to this boss fight. Cutting off Flagra's sunlight will make his body slam into the floor, and when he does so, Samus's morph ball gets bounced up into the air. I would literally just play this as a small child and be like, yeah, I got the spring ball, look! And then I would time that with the jump. It's crazy that that absolutely ridiculous childhood-like fantasy became reality in the Wii port. There's one thing I prefer about the Wii port over the GameCube port, it's that that one has the spring ball. You have to be really quick to slam all these mirrors back up, and the closest that Samus has to a sprint here is her lock-on sidestep, which I think is the intention. This arena is perfectly circular, so you can just lock onto Flagra and just keep sidestepping. Now let me see a squirt. Yo, we get the screw attack early in this game! No, I'm just kidding, that's just the various suit. This game made an important distinction for me growing up, that the screw attack has a 6-point lightning bolt on it, where the various suit, or really just Samus's logo, has this 13-point lightning bolt on it. That's a lot closer to an S, for Samus. And also, suit. No, okay, that's fucking stupid. I also really miss that incredibly vague-looking atom-looking thing that represented the various suit from previous games, but whatever, this thing's pretty cool. I want this on a coin. Oh god, it tickles! There's the various suit that we love and know. Added defense, heat resistance, and big-ass shoulders. It is still susceptible to heat-based attacks, and I'm pretty sure that no suit in this game offers protection from lava, so this is really as far as it gets in terms of elemental resistances. But yes, with the defeat of Flagra, the water has returned to normal, and this corrosive Flagra piss is no longer a threat to us. Sadly, most of the underwater paths that have now opened to us are inaccessible until later in the game, though in case you took any damage, you can use these ultra energies just outside of the Flagra fight to restore a whole ass E-tank's worth of energy. Oh look, it's an atomic! Ow! This doesn't seem like the right kind of environment to house these beings of literally pure energy.
Pure energy.
Much like Samus is when she's in the morph ball. Also, these actually aren't the atomics from Super Metroid, even though they look practically identical. These are actually Bombus, and are much more of a unique enemy than the flying bullet sponges we saw in the 2D games. These things are immune to practically everything except for electric-based weaponry. No, I'm not talking about the screw attack, that's a really good guess. The screw attack isn't in this game though. These things are attracted to other energy sources to absorb and feed off of them, presumably. If this thing was a Pokemon, its final evolution would be Electro from the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and that means they'll make a beeline for you if you're using the charge beam. I always saw the yellow orb in the center of it when it rushes towards you as a big cartoony nose, like it's charging at me while it's sniffing, and I hate that. Hey, does this game have fall damage? Is something that everyone says before jumping down a massive pit. Judging by the noise that Samus made, I'm gonna say that that probably hurt, but the suit energy is a-okay. We've got some cordite barriers blocking us from solving this rune sequence, so we're not gonna be able to make it back up there until we have something that breaks cordite. Coincidentally, the other way back into Flagra's arena has been blocked off with weeds. It's gonna be a bit, but we do need to come back here eventually. Hey, remember double bomb jumping? You can't infinitely bomb jump anymore, but you can still do this. Oh my god, I forgot to pop the other bomb slots. Jesus Christ, how do I even play this game? Fuck it, I'm not jumping down there. I don't want to backtrack all the way back to this elevator. This elevator to Magmoor Caverns, I mean. Does anybody else get this feeling of anxiety and dread whenever using an elevator in the GameCube release of this game? If you know, then you know, and I always dread it happening again. It's Grisby! Oh, I love that name so much. Grisby, please, I'm sorry! Alright, I'm taking a minute to listen to our audience, and from what I hear, you guys want more Super Metroid callbacks. So how about one of the most iconic pieces from the soundtrack to accompany the Magmoor Caverns? No, this does not mean that we'll be fighting Ridley down here. There's actually no bosses here in Magmoor. Well, okay, there was a boss made for this arena, and that boss is still in the game. He's just not here. I'll explain that when we see him later. Hey, are you wondering what these caves are named after? 4 missiles is enough to blast their head off. Code for the game suggests that these were originally supposed to be the Magdalites from Super Metroid. You know those lava enemies that literally have a humanoid hand that throws more lava at you? They were even gonna look like them at one point until Nintendo asked them to make an original design. Also, Magdalite Caverns doesn't exactly roll off the tongue as well. Give it another, what, 8 years or so before we see those guys in 3D. Also, those aren't eyes on the Magmoor. They're more like sonar glands and have developed a stronger sense of smell, meaning that they're about one step away from opening up their own attorney's office with their friend Foggy. And speaking of Fog, remember the bulls from Super Metroid? I mean puffers? Man, what is with these enemies that are just renamed to different shit to fit in this game? We've already established that shit like the Shriekbats could coexist on multiple planets. Why not just embrace it? They're way less threatening in this game than they were in the 2D games. They'll leave some hazardous shit behind, but you can just wait for it to dissipate, and they don't bum rush you in this one, so you're good. I always loved these little Triclopses as a kid. I thought that they were adorable. Dumb little bastards that collect food and save them for later. And can you guess what they think that my bombs are? Adorable. All right, this is where I admit something kind of embarrassing from my childhood. Have you ever heard of Triopses, a real organism? When I first saw them, I thought they were like mutant tadpole looking things. If you've ever heard of sea monkeys, they're sold kind of like those. An at-home kit where you can raise them in your own fucking aquarium. I shit you not, I begged for a kit of one of those because I misread the label as Triclopses and thought, holy shit, they're real! I still took care of them. I was like 12. I still thought it was interesting. I kind of missed them. Hey, not Adam. I think I found their pirate base. Fuckers have been siphoning magma from the planet for thermal energy and very low-level phazon mining. And in this base where we learn another motive for the pirates beyond galactic domination. Profit. Selling minerals and items of interest to their monks, as the lore describes. Cause, you know, what game doesn't have space capitalism? Let's go pillage that planet over there and totally destroy its wildlife for the sake of money. Oh, let's go. First try, baby. No spring ball, only bomb jumps. We don't have access to most of Magmoor with our current jump height, so we're gonna need to transition from a super hot region to a super cold region. Have you ever seen those videos of a metal barrel going from hot to cold really fast and just collapsing in on itself? Yeah, thank God Samus's suit isn't doing that right now. Phendrana Drifts, our 4th region of Metroid Prime, or I guess the 5th if you count the Orphean. Oh, Samus's walk cycle there is not adjusted for the total space that she covers. That is very funny looking. Also, what the fuck is a Phendrana? If there's Magmoors, then surely there's a Phendrana, right? Hello? We've got a save station right off the bat and some pirate lore to read off to the side, kind of like reading the newspaper while taking a shit, which is fitting because taking a shit is what the pirates sound like they're going through right now. All these phazon experiments are really taking their toll. All 3 of these little flavor text lore tidbits mention how terrible their work environment has been since test subjects have started escaping captivity, demanding all surviving personnel report in to secure lockdown or suffer a 30% ration reduction. What do you even put in these space pirate rations? Do they need to cook their food, or can they break down the toxins that humans otherwise can't? Basically, I'm just wondering if they have a working appendix. What am I saying? They probably just eat starbursts. No, not the candy. I mean the plants in Talon Overworld, though the candy would be kind of funny. Trying to scan these flicker bats is always a pain, but I guess that's kind of the point. Somehow, these fuckers are able to avoid the known color spectrum and require X-ray imaging, which is kind of concerning given how close these are to the space pirates, because they'll probably find a way to reverse engineer this and use it for themselves. We need to morph ball through this cave to lift the lockdown that the pirates have set, which feels weird from a gameplay standpoint. It's kind of out of place since no other region of the game really makes you do this, but from a lore perspective, it's cool, especially since we're nearing these pirate outposts. I don't exactly know what the deal is with these purple bamboos though. They're not attracted to my charge shots, so I guess that they're just satisfied with the energy that they're siphoning from these corridors? Okay, that actually makes a bit of sense. Whatever the case, the pirates have learned to use this to their advantage, using them as living security around most of pirate territory. It's a nice fucked up parallel to the Chozo of Talon Overworld, or Talon 4. What happened to Talon 1 through 3?
Babies must sleep. Babies must rest.
Oh shit, it's a xenomorph's head on a bipedal body. Well, okay, I guess the xenomorphs are also bipedal. You know what I mean. It's like a raptor without forelimbs. Baby Shogoths. I mean she-goths. Enemies that, for now, require you to be on top of your sidestepping game to get the drop on. Destroy their shell and blast the juicy center afterwards. It's pretty easy, especially if you combo a missile after a charge shot. But, you know, when there's more than one, they can be a bit of a nuisance. Hold the what? Propulsion units cannot maintain lift to support a power suit, which is a nice way of saying that they'll descend when I step on them. Oh, did I say descend? I meant violently explode like everything else on this godforsaken planet. I have to go fast! I need my next ball! Oh, wow, speaking of going fast, the Boost Ball, our first upgrade that we didn't begin the game with, and our first item that debuts in the Metroid Prime series. It's not a permanent speed buff. You have to hold down the jump button while in Morph Ball mode to build energy and then launch yourself in the direction of your current velocity. If you're in a tunnel or just going in a straight line, it's actually faster to charge up these boosts while not holding a direction on the joystick, especially in these windy Morph Ball paths. You go fucking plaid, dude. I really want to believe that this is how the Chozo tribe learned to traverse this land. A whole ass city of birds rolling everywhere and catapulting up these half pipes just to get to work. Yeah, I'm sorry, we don't use a skateboard to get past these half pipes. His name may be Tony Hawk, but he ain't Choni Chozo. I couldn't even say it right. Just like the one all the way back at the beginning of Talon Overworld. Okay, actually it's not that bad. The path back to Magmoor is pretty short, and there's an elevator that takes us right back to Talon Overworld right next to this elevator we're about to take. Oh, speak of the devil, I guess it must be fucking opposite day. Ridley's chilling out in the cold place rather than the hot place. Yeah, okay, great job at subverting my expectations here, dudes. Also, his shadow isn't animating. Is he just T-posing up there until he comes into frame? I'm telling you, dude, he doesn't need those wings to fly. Oh, dude, it's one of those big termite nests. You ever seen those things? They're fucking massive. Scans indicate incubating life forms below. Oh, good, they'll have something to replace them. Oh, there's the blood flowers. Oh, no. Oh, shit. Get that away from me. This appears to be too smooth to be natural. Gee, you don't fucking say. Next thing you're gonna tell me is that these engraved hieroglyphs are actually natural erosion. Oh, finally, the high jump. Now we're talking. Or the space jump, that's fine too. This is nothing like the space jump from the 2D games, it's more of a double jump, which is still really handy. I'm not looking to gift horse in the mouth. I used to excuse this in lore as this being a different type of Chozo, but maybe it's also because these are the space jump boots rather than simply the space jump. Either way, we've got our main movement upgrade. Yeah, fuck it, I'll stop by the ship, why not? Who doesn't stop at the ship at this point in the game? I gotta see my ass shaking with that new air conditioning suit! I'm a little underwhelmed that the music doesn't swell up at this point in the game, kind of like when the music swells when you revisit your ship in Super Metroid, but hey, whatever. It's not that big of a deal, it's just something I would like, you know? Let's see, what could we grab back on our way to Fendrana? Might as well see what's at the top of this pirate structure here in Magmoor. A hamster wheel! That was the lamest hamster wheel I've ever used. Also, where are all these metal balls that the pirates are using to activate these things? First those doors back at the Orpheon, and now these, like, generator-looking things? Where's the keys, dumbass? Taking this path leads us to our first Chozo artifact, an almost literal plot MacGuffin that we need to collect in order to finish the game. I'm really not a fan of how these things are implemented into the game itself, and is probably the biggest gripe I have with the game that's keeping me from saying that it's perfect. But later games do this better. I'm not gonna harp on it too hard here, especially since everyone under the sun seems to have the same issue with this. I'll explain the lore behind these things in just a little bit, just stay with me. That is a pretty fucking awesome looking Chozo statue back there though. It's cool that there's various other Chozo statues to represent these other tribes. They're not all the same bird robot looking things we saw back in ZB's. And also SR388, I forgot about that one. But like, damn, look at those robes. This dude's dripping. Oh great, parasites and pirates. I guess we know where the Orpheon got them from. Don't forget to scan these ice parasites while you can. You could miss these guys permanently if you're too reckless or simply don't care. Statue depicts a Chozo balancing a plane of existence in its hands. I am so sorry, dude, but I need to use that existence as a platform to get up there.
To pass my gaze, seek my twins.
Oh, you mean this one? So does this thing grow back like the ions, or is this a one-time security system? That seems like a pretty big oversight. That wave beam's looking kinda sus. Surely it's not gonna be that easy, right? Yep, I had a feeling. Let's see what kind of wildlife our distant space cousins have weaponized this time. Oh god, Mama's home. Where were you when I was fighting your children? You don't seem to have kept an eye on them with one of the 53 eyes you have on you. You are a terrible parent. Adult she-goths. Invulnerable to most beam attacks with a bizarre electromagnetic field capable of absorbing Samus's power beam to charge its own, like, mouth blast things. Though doing so tires them out pretty quickly, leaving them open to kinetic blast to the face. Get rapid missile, dummy. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. No, the beams don't stack in this game like in Super, but that's understandable. Samus's beams didn't stack back in the NES game, so why would they stack here? Though this is a step up because Samus can now freely switch between the beams that she's collected, rather than dumping whatever beams she had previously obtained like it's a gun in Halo. It's a nice in-between. This is the wave beam in appearance only, really, instead being an electric-based weapon rather than wall-piercing. Again, I thought this is because it's a different tribe of Chozo that created their own wave beam. In the end, pointing this out is kind of just semantics. It's just unique enough to not feel like a substitute for the power beam, but it's got some unique properties that make it pretty good in combat. Full homing capabilities as long as Samus is locked on, and it could stun larger enemies with a charge shot, leaving them primed and ready for a good missile punishing. You can use missiles while using other beams, but I think that from a coding standpoint, Samus's arm cannon can only fire missiles while using her power beam, so when you press the missile button, it'll quickly revert back to the power beam, and then revert back to the beam that you were using before, and you can't fire while it's doing this sort of transition. This also means that you can't use the rapid fire missile exploit with any other beams than the power beam, but that's fine. Also, that sort of hard light look that the cannon gets when swapping between beams is fucking awesome. If you look closely, you can see Samus's hand inside the beam changing its gestures. I could never really see this when playing the game at a native resolution. It's really cool. And now we have a way of taking out these bombus. Wow, that was violent. Alright, if I had to take a guess, I need to shoot the cavity inside that stalactite with something concussive, kinda like a missile. Hell yeah. Ah, shit, hold on. Fucking ice streak bats, the bastards. I know I don't have to scan them exclusively in this room, but these guys disappear just like the ice parasites later in the game, so I'd rather just get it out of the way now before I completely forget. Alright, I'm seeing more morph ball spinners, which means that we're definitely getting closer to pirate facilities. And I know that there's a timing puzzle here, but I see a hole that is just my size. Alright, we got a bit more toilet reading. This one points us in the direction of the Hydro Lab just through the nearby purple door. I'm assuming that these things use a specific voltage to open, because otherwise, how do the ninjas... how do the pirates have their own wave beam tech to open these? Oh god, I wasn't off base calling them ninjas. We've got stealth camo up in here.
You're that ninja.
Okay, it's actually technically not the same because they're visible beyond the X-ray spectrum. You still can't lock onto them until they're at full opacity, though. Ooh, I've never done this before. Hey, thank you so much for making it this far into the video. I know for some of you guys it's disappointing that I'm splitting this video up into pieces, but it had been over a month since my last video, and I'm figuring that for now, if a video is going to be over 2 hours long, I might as well split it into halves anyway. I don't know how many videos I'll do this for, I'm kind of experimenting with this, and a lot of it is because I haven't posted in so long that I just need to get something out there, but I've made sure that part 2 is for the most part finished, so you won't have to wait too long for part 2. If you want to join this list of names off to the left here, all you have to do is subscribe to my Patreon for as cheap as $1 a month, join my YouTube members, or subscribe to my Twitch, which is free if you have Twitch Prime. And I especially want to shout out my tier 3 patrons: Dante Bishop, Seth31123, Freedom19, Nikal, EMC Mend, Dragon XRD, or is it Zerd, Silk, Lockwe, Super Mango Man, Cloud Connection, I Am the Pokemon Master, Otaku de Carnitas, Pixel Pockets, Slim Jim's Media Bin, EMT Neutrino, and Chef Kilo. You guys are one of the reasons I'm able to make videos this long in the first place. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I promise it won't be too long of a wait, and I'll see you guys real soon.